There's a pattern in technology. Every version 1 starts big, bulky, heavy. Then somehow it gets lighter, thinner, and yet more capable. You go from a 500-pound low-resolution TV to a 30-pound high-definition one. But sometimes technology takes a step back on purpose. This is the Pimax Crystal Lite. And it's a VR headset that looks like something from 10 years ago. But that's deliberate, because while everyone else is chasing lighter, more social and productive headsets, the Crystal Lite is after one simple goal: absolute clarity. Before we move up to my office, let's rip a Band-Aid off. This is what I look like with the Pimax Crystal Lite on. Yep, it's pretty ridiculous. Just like every VR headset ever, especially big bulky ones like this. But get used to it, because we're gonna be spending a lot of time in and out of VR headset mode, and well, it's impossible to not look stupid while you're in goggle mode. The first time I put on the Pimax Crystal Lite, I was blown away. Okay, actually, not immediately, because I had to navigate the software quirks that you have to go through every time you mess around with PC virtual reality. But once I got past that stuff and I got into the Pimax kind of space, I was blown away by the resolution. This runs 2880 by 2880 in each eye, which is just insanely high resolution for a VR headset. And that means you get a level of clarity that just isn't possible in other virtual reality headsets out there. The Meta Quest could never. And you see it right away. Now, the Pimax kind of space, and you are kind of in space, is a little bit useless in a way. It's mostly just an interface for the sake of having an interface. You'll have to navigate some of the usual problems with PC virtual reality. You need Steam VR or some other system to launch games from. You can, in theory, launch Epic games, for instance, but you need to know to find the game and right-click and launch from virtual reality. It's not their forte. Steam VR is definitely easier to use, and Pimax itself has some built-in software stuff, but it's not great either. That's the case of all virtual reality headsets though, so that's nothing I'm gonna hold against Pimax. But once you get going, it's just absolutely astounding just how good everything looks, as long as you're playing the right kind of game. And honestly, that's just down to the sheer power of this thing. Pimax isn't taking some novel, unique approach to adding something new to VR that's never existed before. What they're doing is gaining that next level of clarity through brute force. Super high resolution that you just can't get anywhere else. And honestly, sometimes the oldest trick in the book still is a good trick to do. And that's the case here. I mainly play VR PC games like Elite Dangerous and Microsoft Flight Simulators, things that kind of put you in a cockpit setting. And this is perfect for that. In fact, if you are looking at playing something like Beat Saber or Space Pirates, I can't recommend this set at all. And we'll get into why in just a minute. But in that cockpit scenario, you get a level of detail just not found any other place, which means for once, I didn't have to kind of lean forward to read text a little better on those flight controls. I leaned forward because I wanted to see more. Just seeing like the reflection of light off of the glass in the plane when I was in Microsoft Flight Simulator, or seeing the hazy orange glow coming off Elite Dangerous is just enough to really draw you in and make you think you're in some other place for a second. Sitting games benefit from this, I think, in some ways. Often when you're moving around by walking in virtual reality, your mind can tell your body's not moving the way it should be. But when you're sitting in a vehicle that's doing the moving, your brain kind of processes it just a little bit better. But there is a catch to that kind of power. All of it has to come through, well, this crazy, ridiculous, fairly long, but maybe not even long enough, cable with its tri-system at the end. You've got a spot for power, you've got USB, and you've got DisplayPort. And well, why do you need all that? Because that's the only way you're gonna push that many pixels to two different little screens put right in front of your eyes. The Oculus Quest can't put together that kind of power in an all-contained system. You need power just to get this thing to turn on. USB is not going to provide enough power for this beast. You need the USB cord itself to get the inside-out tracking that this thing is capable of. It's not great. We'll talk about that too. And you need DisplayPort to push all those pixels. Now I know what you're thinking, Josh, there's also HDMI. Why not use that instead of DisplayPort? And there's a couple of good reasons, I think. The first is that HDMI has certain limitations that are not found in DisplayPort. It really was designed for a TV scenario with TV resolutions and TV refresh rates. And while it can run computer monitors, it's not always as good at it. And when you really get into the odd things that we're asking for in a dual display, high refresh, and a strange shape, it gets all the worse. DisplayPort is just honestly a little more versatile. But it's also down to your graphics card. Most graphics cards that are powerful enough to run a system like this, and you will need something beefy, actually have one HDMI port and multiple display ports. You're going to want to use that HDMI port to run your monitor. So that leaves the display ports for your VR system. So this is actually a really good choice. Speaking of PCs, that brings us to the sponsor of this video, Maingear. You may have noticed my nice PC back here, and it's actually not my usual machine. My gaming PC died not too long before this headset arrived, which left me in the awkward position of not being able to use the very review unit I've just accepted. Maingear was kind enough to loan me this MG1 PC to test out the Crystal Light with, and I've actually kind of fallen in love with this thing. They are the sponsor of this video, but they actually haven't paid me for any of this. They just loaned me a PC to work with. Maingear's main priorities are a sort of custom-like built PC that you can order and have arrive. They focus on clean wiring. It's just beautiful to look inside this thing while giving you the power you need to do something like run a VR headset. This particular model is running an AMD processor and liquid cooling, and it has these gorgeous lights. And while they focus on that, one of the cool things is this front little panel that comes off and can be swapped out with other panels. You can buy more, and there are lots of designs, or you can even design your own. And it's attached just by magnets, and the lights actually work with it. Find one you like, purchase it, swap it out, and if you ever get tired and bored, find another and swap it out again. But personally, one of my favorite bits about this Maingear PC is that it arrived with no bloatware at all. I don't know about you, but I hate it when I buy a brand new laptop or desktop and I fire it up and I'm going to make it my computer, and it arrives with all kinds of antivirus programs and little games and weird gotcha things that you didn't want, you didn't ask for, you didn't pay for, and they're getting your way and you have to spend time removing them. That doesn't happen with Maingear. I'll leave a link down below. Thank you to Maingear for loaning me this PC. I'm gonna have to send it back, and I'm gonna miss it when it's gone. So once you have your PC set up and you plug in your Pimax, you're gonna have to set up the Pimax software, which detects the VR headset, its controllers, and any optional tracking devices you buy. And you'll notice the word optional. The Pimax does have tiny little cameras built into it so that it can do inside-out tracking. Unfortunately, while it's capable of inside-out tracking, it's not very good at it. I've tried using this with a few of the classic VR games like Space Pirates just to see how well it did, and I quickly found myself dying because I was having trouble keeping up with my controllers. In Space Pirates, you even do this maneuver where you go behind you and pull back out to switch weapons, shields, etc. It couldn't keep up with that at all times. It just isn't very good at that. Your best bet will remain cockpit-style games, anything that puts you in an airplane or a race car. And the good news is this will keep up with those great because of its super high resolution and its super fast refresh rate. If you do want to play a more free roam type game, you're going to want to buy some trackers and hook that up to the system, and you'll still have to deal with the fact that you're tethered to a PC, which isn't great. The Crystal Light does have one loop across the back to help feed the cable a certain way, but it's just the one, and I still found myself kind of fidgeting and fussing with it whenever I tried to move around. It wasn't a great experience. Sitting down is best. Speaking of the controllers, they are generously inspired by MetaQuest, and I'm not sure that I can really fault them for that. Honestly, what are you going to do with a VR controller at this point. These rings, after all, are to help with the inside-out tracking that this thing is supposed to have. And the button layout is, well, actually almost exactly the same, with the addition of a couple of Pi buttons to launch the Pi software inside the VR headset. Honestly, I push that by accident more often than not. There's not a good reason for it other than to get back to Steam VR, which has some integration into the Pimax software. They're comfortable enough and they're light enough, and they actually have built-in rechargeable batteries. You use a USB-C to recharge them, and the battery life isn't horrible, it's not great. They'll probably outlast you in your ability to withstand wearing the headset if you have these fully charged when you start. They do feel a little plasticky and cheap in the triggers themselves, though. I wish they just felt a little higher quality. As for wearing the headset, yes, you will eventually feel it. It uses the classic over-top strap and turn dial to squeeze the whole thing to your face. And after a while, it begins to clamp down on you. You feel a lot like, I don't know, LeVar Burton must have when he had the visor clamped to his head as Geordi. There is a nose flap to kind of keep things a little comfortable here, and you can change out this faceplate, which is good because some people have complained that the default faceplate puts the glass much too close to your eyes, and I think they might be brushing eyelashes, and that becomes kind of uncomfortable. That wasn't the case for me, and I'm kind of happy about that because the thicker foam actually ruins some of your wide field of view. You lose something for it. I like that I could keep this close to my face and get a much wider field of view, which only added to the games, especially Elite Dangerous, where you want to look back and forth and get to the controls on your left and your right. It's one of my favorite parts about this thing, actually. The sound is okay. They offer optional headphones that you can attach to this, and it improves the sound a lot from my understanding, but I didn't get to try them out. But again, sound is okay. You can probably make do unless you really want the elite experience. And honestly, at the point that you're spending as much as you do for this thing and the PC and everything else, maybe you should. But at the end of the day, it's worth keeping in mind what it can and can't do. If you are looking for a roam around video game, this is just not the headset for you. It's not great at tracking. You are tethered to your PC. You're not going to move around that much. It won't scan your room in the same fashion as a MetaQuest will. There is some kind of room connection, and I always use the I'm standing right here thing. But I've noticed that when you wanted to scan a room, it wasn't up to the quality that MetaQuest has. Neither is the pass-through feature. You can turn on the infrared cameras and get a view of everything around you, but it wasn't as good as MetaQuest. That's just not what this headset is for. The Crystal Lite is a gaming first system, whereas the MetaQuest is kind of positioning itself as being more of a, it does games and other things. You're supposed to be wearing it for all of your life and roaming your house, and maybe that's not for you. Actually, honestly, it's not quite for me. I've never gotten to the point where I've used the MetaQuest that way. If you are looking for something that is truly gaming first and gives you the highest quality you can at no expense, then the Pimax Crystal is probably worth looking at, with one quick exception. There is also the Pimax Crystal Super coming. This is the Crystal Lite. The Super is going to be everything this is and more. Wider field of view, more power, and of course, more expensive. But again, if you don't mind spending more and more money, the Crystal Super is probably worth looking at. If you have some kind of limit though, the Crystal Lite is a pretty fantastic PC virtual reality headset. I've enjoyed my time with it, and as I send this back, I'll be sad to let it go. You should know right now, Pimax is doing a discount on this thing. If you have any virtual reality headset at all, you can get a discount on the Crystal Lite. It's not one of those situations where you have to trade in your old VR headset. Instead, follow the link I have in the description below, let them know which headset you currently have, provide a serial number in order to prove that you really have it, and they'll just instantly give you a discount on the Crystal Lite. No need to send in anything at all, not a real trade-in value. You just get to save some money. I'll leave you a link to that below. That's it for now, and I hope you enjoyed this review. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button while you're here, and until next time, bye!